killed more than 60 people in June.
Oh, I think they're doing a great job. A lot of them are.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today with Sterling.
We're advocating for a referendum so that the people, the country, can decide whether or not we need a cruise birthing facility.
Okay, I'm going to ask you as much for my benefit as anybody else who is it. I had a conversation earlier with somebody and I was trying to understand. And some media outlets say, well, this is what being said. So I think I understand what a petition is. I think I understand what a referendum is, but I could be confused. So what is this thing that you're doing, why you're doing it, and what happens? So we can start at the beginning to give people a perspective. Could you help us?
So a referendum would be a vote on yes or no on whether or not we want a cruise birthing facility. So right now what we're doing is we're starting a people's initiated referendum, which means that people's initiated referendum by petition, which means that we have to get 25% of the voting electorate, which is 21,500. Right. So it's the number we need is 5,288 signatures in order to initiate a people's initiated referendum. Okay,
so please forgive me. So for the country to have a voice in something, under the Constitution, 25% of the populace needs to sign something to say, okay, government, we would like you to do this, bring it to a vote for the public referendum.
Exactly.
Okay, sounds simple.
Yeah.
Right, and I think that one of the misconceptions also that is being floated around in the social media and in the media houses is that a vote for the petition or signing the petition is a vote no for cruise port. The one thing that we need to be very clear on is that this petition allows us. Okay.
Sorry. No, that's not you.
So this petition allows us, the registered voters of the Cayman Islands, to have an opportunity to go out and enact a referendum under the Constitution. And I know there's a lot of talk about, if we do this referendum now, that they're going to want to do referendum for everything. So I want to just explain some of the explanatory notes, which is in the Constitution, that unless it's a matter of national importance, then this referendum and this petition wouldn't be considered. So once we realized the only route that we have in order for us to have a say was to enact a petition to engage a referendum. So in the past, obviously, we saw where a capital project of similar magnitude with the schools had taken place prior to the 2009 Constitution reform. So back then, when there was a lot of economists and individuals who warned the government, I remember that then Minister of Education, the Honorable Alden McLaughlin, said that it would take an act of God to stop him. And he was right, because the cabinet had the mandate, and the cabinet thought that was what was best for the country. They proceeded to take that expenditure on, and we saw that it forced us into a FFR, a framework for fiscal responsibility. So the difference between then and now is that during the 2009 election, that same government allowed us to vote on a constitutional reform, which has Section 70 of that Constitution, which is a referendum. So I only said all of that to be clear that when a capital project that is a matter of national importance is being put on the table by the ministry, that it's important that we exercise our constitutional right to go out and have a say in these matters.
Okay, again, not to belabor it, but to understand, because some individuals have shared that if they sign this petition asking for a referendum, that either means that they're for the port or they're against the port. Again, I just want to be clear. Sign a petition only means that you're asking the government to bring this decision as to whether we go forward with the port.
To take in consideration the rights of the people. Okay. That's what the petition is.
Exactly. It's not for or against. It's just literally for us to have our say. We want more information, which we still haven't gotten. That we just want more information, and we want our opportunity to voice our opinion, because I know that it's been said a few times that the election results from last year are the mandate that they're going on, that they won that election, but they went in there with more seats and lost seats in that election. So they can't keep going on
the PPM government.
The PPM government.
Both parties.
Both parties.
Okay.
I mean, like Mario says all the time, like the only people that came out of that winning that was the independents.
Right. And then we saw where a few independents decided to cross the aisle when the two parties, which realized that they were weak, decided to join forces, and now they call themselves the unity government. So if you are the government that is of the mandate of the people, then why are you not calling yourself the people's government and not the unity government? Because who is involved with that unity?
Okay. As I listen to you, the audience is certainly invited to join and share their perspective. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. Michelle Lockwood, Mario Rankin are our guests, and we're talking about people-initiated referendum in relation to the port. Now, I understand from those who I believe certainly more scholarly than I am saying that if that 5,288, so just under 5,300 registered voters sign, then the government is obligated to bring a referendum. But the wording of that question and all of its, antecedent parts
it's still with the government.
Still with the government to decide how that's going to play out.
Well, the thing is, Sterling, is that if we're going to have the misguided perception that the government would word it in some biased way or some other way, the reality is that once the government gets that mandate, which is the 5,288, which is 25% of the electorate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Once the government gets that mandate, I think that mandate speaks clearly for itself, that the people are certainly involved in interest. So for the government to unconsciously go in to a room and form a committee to formalize the wording of this referendum in any other way other than say, hey, look, if you're for the port, vote yes, and if you're against, vote no, and whatever contents they want to add in, that's fine. But the reality is that then it becomes a campaign after that point, depending on what date they set for that referendum.
Okay.
And I think that when we look at all of the aspects of this project that has been now brought to the attention of the general public by that meeting last night, I think it's important now that we understand that we have more questions today than we did prior to this meeting.
Well, that is something that I'm only trying to understand from two perspectives. One, in order to objectively sit here and be able to have a discussion with anyone and everyone to know what's going on. And then secondly, with the greatest respect, as an individual voter, taxpayer, potential financer of this thing through my taxes and and my obligation to my children to know what is going on. So this morning, a couple of individuals, just following the meeting last night, gave me a perspective, and they were sharing that, again, if the decision is a port in Georgetown or no port, they're conflicted. If the decision is, should we have a port or no port? Yes, definitely a port.
Right.
But where is the best place? How is the best way? And the like. And I can answer those questions,
right.
Even if I was to try. So where are we now from your perspective?
Well, I would just like to say this, that last night was a very interesting meeting, and I will say this to the benefit of the ministry, that when we looked on their agenda, we didn't see on that agenda where they would have two vice presidents from the two major cruise lines in the world, Royal Caribbean vice president and Carnival Cruise Line vice president. And what we got out of that meeting that was satisfactory to me, in that small regard, was that they admitted last night that if we didn't build cruise berthing, that they weren't going to pull all of their ships from our route. They admitted that 60% of their entire revenues generated from cruise comes from the Caribbean. 60% of all the revenues globally comes from the Caribbean. Mm-hmm. They also went into great length and talked about how important the Caribbean and the Cayman Islands is. And I think that all of the misconceptions that has been put out on social media from other groups saying that without the piers we have zero cruise tourism, that we put that to rest last night. And I'm happy that those gentlemen were there, because if I had said it or you had said it, then there would have been room for questioning whether it was true or not, or whether our information is accurate. So we got it from the two head guys from the two major corporations who intend to come to our shores.
And I think we understand that Carnival in particular, I believe, 80% of our cruisers are Carnival cruisers. I think we understand that from from one of the officials within government. Mm-hmm. Ms. Michelle,
I completely agree with Mario. Like they were quite respectful in a lot of ways, and they admitted that Cayman has always been welcoming, and they are quite happy with the service that they're getting from Cayman. And I think that goes back to what I've been saying from the beginning, is we need to rethink the way that we're talking about this port. Instead of doing it because they're telling us we have to, why not say, this is the product that we offer and it's so great, you can't afford not to tender because, or whatever we choose to do, because we have that great of a product. Because it show, like, if you see some of the studies that are done, and in fact, I think one of them admitted it last night as well too, is that people choose their cruises based on destination. That's right. So we need to make Cayman irreplaceable without port, without a pier, and that way, whatever we decide to do in the long run will end up helping us, because we won't be able to they won't be able to say, oh well, you have to build a tender, you have to build the cruise berthing facility. We'll tender because we love you guys that much. Right. That's the way I feel we need to be looking at this. We need to look at this as what makes us the best destination.
And one other thing too that they really highlighted, Sterling, was that because it was a big question about the Oasis size ships, which is their biggest, that they're being built and whatnot. And what was very interesting in that is that the question was asked by one of the major merchants. I won't call any names. But the question was asked directly by one of the major merchants whether or not they were shifting their brand to the larger size ships, and that's what they were focusing on mainly. And the Royal Caribbean representative, which was the vice president, got up and he said, look, we recognize that a large part of their market share has been from the smaller ships, and that they recognize that there is a market for the higher end tourists. That's why they build the Oasis size ships, in order to attract the higher spend passengers. So essentially what he was basically saying is that they're not closing down any area of their cruise market. They're just identifying new ones and building ships according, and that if the Cayman Islands do not build a cruise berthing, that it would be unlikely that the Oasis size ships won't call to our port. Now, why that's interesting is because there's been a lot of talk about, well, if we don't build a cruise berthing because all ships are going to be Oasis size, that is incorrect. They said it last night themselves. I didn't say it. Michelle didn't say it. Mr. Cocornell didn't say it. The cruise representatives said it themselves, that they have over 20-odd ships on order, 9 of which is the Oasis size. The majority is going to be the sizes that are tendering and that are willing to tender to our shores, and that they understand that our location is one of the safest and most unique environments, so that they want to keep us on their itinerary. So what we have to focus on is, one, is what our capacity is, and what that capacity is, that we can maintain a quality product. Because if we go and over-exaggerate the market and then water down the visitor experience, then we've converted our product. So therefore, we're going to affect all aspect of tourism, not just the cruise aspect. And it's important that we don't go and do one thing to the detriment of the other, because both things depend on each other. And nobody in that auditorium last night was against cruise tourism. Nobody was. Everybody was concerned more about the impacts that it will cause and whether or not we are going to lose all tourism if we didn't build the piers. So we got the answers we wanted in that regard. So now we need to proceed on how we formulate a plan to strike that balance, to ensure that we know what our ceiling is in terms of what we can accommodate. The
carrying capacity.
Right.
Exactly.
We need to find out what our carrying capacity is on all areas of the island, and then we need to come up with a strategic plan on how to maximize the best experience based on the numbers we can accommodate.
All right. Let's pause. Take a short break. We invite you to call and share your thoughts. The phone lines are open. Certainly listen, get informed, call and contribute. There's a question, a query, a comment. You may be on this side, that side, in the middle. Hey, without healthy debate and discussion, we can move forward. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. Mario Rankin, Michelle Lockwood. Please stay tuned for Talk Today.
It's big, it's hot, and it's sizzling.
Superstitch is making way for Christmas stock and is having a mad end of summer fabric clearance at Superstitch Fabrics on September 27, 28, and 29th.
Fabric for dresses, fabric for skirts, fabric for blouses. Superstitch even has fabric to cover your chairs and your what's it not.
No, me what's it not.
It's the biggest fabric clearance of the year, so don't miss it. 25% off most fabric.
50% off suiting fabric. Great discount on household items.
Superstitch, your one-stop household store at 39 Pasador Place, Smith Road. Still offering the best prices in town. Call 949-2833 or go to superstitch.com.ky.
King Sports Center takes pride in being more than just an ordinary gymnasium. For 14 years, their multi-purpose facility has been providing the community with a variety of sporting, recreational, and relaxation activities. King Sports Center has a bowling alley, lounge bar, multi-purpose rooms, powerhouse gym, rock climbing wall, bungee jumping, a 10,000 square foot rink, and so much more. For more information on the variety of services, call their friendly staff today at 946-5464 or email kings@candw.ky or visit www.kingsportscenter.com. King Sports Center, your one-stop shop for fitness, recreation, and relaxation.
Save the dates, Cayman, for HomeFest 2018, Cayman's Home Expo. Join A.L. Thompson's and more than 60 exciting vendors Friday and Saturday, September 28th and 29th. Why does HomeFest get bigger each year? Because you ask for it. You want new products, more demos, and more interaction, so we bring them to you. If you want cutting edge and once-a-year savings, join us for Cayman's Home Expo. It's HomeFest at A.L. Thompson's.
Pet owners are responsible for the protection of their pets during disaster events. If you plan to evacuate, plan for your pet as well, because they are not allowed in public emergency shelters. If you go to friends or relatives, and if it's okay to take your pets, also take your pet survival kit as well. Your kit should include proper ID, collar and tag, carrier or cage, leash, at least 2 weeks supply of moist pet food to preserve water or food bowls, any necessary medications, and plenty of newspaper for sanitary purposes and disinfectant. After the disaster, be careful in allowing your pets outside. Downed power lines, damaged buildings, and other animals and insects brought with the disaster could also present real dangers to your pet. Also, take care not to allow your pet to consume food or water which may have become contaminated.
This is brought to you by the Barbados Government Information Service and Breeze 105.3.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. Invite you to be a part of our discussion and want you to call and share your thoughts. In the studio is Michelle Lockwood together with Mr. Mario Rankin, our guests, as we're talking about the cruise port referendum. And for many who have been able to participate in the meeting last evening, either in person or through the various, I call it electronically available, accessible, technological driven era that we live in. So some were there in person with questions, some were listening, some were getting, second-hand accounts, as it were. Now, with all that transpired, you left with more answers now clarified? More questions. What are some of the unasked and unanswered questions that you think are now pressing?
I don't know, Mary, what are you going to say?
Well, for me personally, and obviously, I think we all in our groups, we should all share pretty much the same opinions on a lot of the issues that we have concerns about. One of the things that I thought the meeting created more confusion was the idea that there's a certain time period for us to lock in a procurement process in order to keep the attention and the interest of these investors. However, when they were asked the question last night, which I thought was very, very interesting, and I think it's a good point to bring up, they were asked the question by a gentleman at the very end of the show, at the meeting, and he said, "I heard you say that they're not allowed to disclose who the three top bidders are now." And he understood that there was a procurement law or process in place that they had to abide by. He said, "But when you do identify that person, will you then bring it back to public consultation to see whether or not it's a bidder that the public is comfortable with?" And the answer from Mr. Ranger was, and I'm sure it was Mr. Ranger because I watched it, was that, well, at that point, it wouldn't make sense to come back to public consultation because it will be too late, because it will already be signed, it will be a done deal. Mm-hmm. So what's confusing about that is that because it's one of the main concerns of the public now as to who is on the top 3 short list of being the preferred bidders and procurement process, simply because we know that there's a lot of issues with China Harbor, and a lot of issues have been brought up in that meeting, which they avoided. Now, I can't remember his name now. Mervyn brought up a very, very, very good point, and he drove it home on as much opportunities as he could. And the panel didn't seem to understand what Mr. Mervyn was saying, but what he was basically saying is that how is a group that has such a bad reputation globally for corruption and bribery and whatever could even be considered to make the short list? Now, they never revealed who was on the short list, but they never denied it either. They never said, oh, well, China Harbor isn't on the list, because that was his concern. So if they wanted to relax his concern, they could have simply said, hey, China Harbor not on the list. Now, to the point where we need to get it done now, because investors don't stick around for a long time, and now that we know that China Harbor is on the short list, China Harbor been here from 2010, when McKeever promised them the world. And they still here now, 2018. That's a lot longer than 2 years. So I would beg to mitigate the minister's statement that they would not be here if we prolonged it any longer, because China Harbor is still here, alive and well, and they're in almost every port around the world. Right. So, again, those are the type of confusions and the misanswers that we got, and left us even in more of a tailspin, because a couple of the main concerns are, come on, we understand that China Harbor has messed up and didn't deliver in many ports. It's there. So our concern is that, let's just say, hypothetically, that they were awarded this contract, and the same thing take place here, we'll be left holding the bag. So put aside all our concerns. If they did get to that point and they were awarded it, Mr. Mervyn had a very good point, and nobody could answer the man question.
Right. We do have a call online for those who want to WhatsApp. I am checking the WhatsApps. We'll get to them in a bit. 925-3261 is the WhatsApp if you want to use that. You can call us toll free at 1-800-534-8255. Let's go to our phones. Mario Rankin, Michelle Lockwood is our, like I said, sort of a grounding guest.
Tonight I am.
Let's go to the studio phone. Good afternoon. You're on Talk Today.
Good afternoon to you, Sterling Dwayne.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Rankin. Good afternoon, Ms. Lockwood, I think it is.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
I'd just like to say one thing before I ask some questions. I know Mr. Rankin doesn't like me to go off and disagree with him, because he's insulted me a couple of times on radio, but that's all. The government, it's Her Majesty's government. We swear allegiance to Her Majesty. Every one of us, of those of us who are elected, indigenous Caymanians, has to swear allegiance to Her Majesty, first of all. Primarily, the same thing in Great Britain, colonial power. That's why it's called Her Majesty's government in the United Kingdom. We are therefore Her Majesty's government in the Cayman Islands, because, you don't have to believe me. You can check this with people who have a lot more education, a lot more sense than I do. It's Her Majesty's government. So we all swear allegiance, those who are elected to the House of Representatives. Don't have a parliament, they're not an independent country. So it's Her Majesty's government. So Her Majesty's loyal citizens, if you want to put it that way, because that's what our passport says. Our passport says this passport belongs to the Crown, is the property of the Crown at all times. No country, no government. It's the property of the Crown at all times. What would you say would be the amount of finance people seems to be talking a lot about money, how much money? In the mandatory pension system that was made a mandatory law passed by our elected representatives some nearly 20 years ago, it is 21 years. The private pension system, which is by far the most money, since most people work for private sector. How much money would you roughly say is in that system right now in the stocks or blue chips, poker chips, whatever chips up there in the different things that it have been invested in. About how much money roughly would you say it is?
Well, from what I know, that it's over $2 billion in all of the different pension houses and providers, from what the statistics said. Now that could be less or more. I don't know. I haven't checked it in a while, but it was over $2 billion.
You understand the point I'm trying to make?
I do.
When I say this, it's a mandatory law. That's a very serious thing, that word mandatory. It means you're breaking the law if you don't have a pension plan or you don't subscribe to a private pension plan. The majority of people are working for private enterprise. It's against the law. You're a criminal if you're below the age of 60. I don't know if they've moved it to 65. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have any bearing on what I'm trying to show to you. Mandatory. That law was passed by our elected representatives, and it made it a law. So millions and billions of now admitted, everyone is in that fund. Whether the people wanted to do it, because I'm sure many people might not have wanted to do it, but there was no referendum held. So that wasn't of national importance. The same thing went with the mandatory health.
That was before we were allowed to do a referendum, though.
By the point I'm making, there wasn't any held. So the money's in there without referendum held on it. Without referendum held. But it's there. I hear no one talking about that, really paying attention to that, which if that money was here, as it should have been in every country, would have been in the government's coffers, since it's mandatory in the government's coffers, but it's not. That's how it is in every country, but it's not. So it's not in the government's coffers, it's in the private sector, and our people have no say about it, had no say, had no referendum, no nothing. Point I'm making, and I made it before and I was insulted by yourself for saying it, who decides what is of national importance? Because that's what I think the Constitution says. Who decides what is of national importance to hold a referendum? Because I could say to people, do you know that there might be 500 or 600 or 700, maybe more Caymanians who would like to know who are the beneficial owners of companies, since the private sector is clamoring for the government to divulge all information and be transparent. But the private sector says, no, we can't know who are these beneficial owners of these companies. The public doesn't have a right to know this, but they have a right to know everything about everything, which the government does, which probably is the right. But they don't have a right to know these things. So if someone gets up and says, well, this is of national importance, we should hold a referendum to see if there are Caymanians who would like to know who are the beneficial owners of these companies. It should be public knowledge. Do you think that that should be a privilege granted to people? I've noticed most people got up and say immediately, no, the government is right. It shouldn't be done. Now, maybe they are right. I'm not arguing about that. I'm not saying anything about that. Yes, but should we have a referendum on that also? Who decides what's important to have when it's important to have a referendum? What is of national importance? The other thing I'm going to ask, and I'll shut up and listen for your answer. What is this referendum about? Because no one is coming out and saying, since they're saying, well, it's giving you the right, whether you agree or you don't agree, to go and find out, get this information. All I'm hearing is information. Is the referendum about, let us get some more information? Is that what it's saying? Yes, get more information. No, don't get more information. Or is it going to say simply, do you wish for a dock to be built, or you don't wish? Yes or no? Is this what it's going to say? That's all I'm asking. Have a wonderful day.
Well, we certainly invite you. I know we should respond to him, but let's do the break. And
okay.
Then we can get the response from our panelists. We can weigh in and get in a dialogue and see where it goes. Please stay tuned for Talk Today.
Hi, I'm remodeling our bathroom. I have a few questions.
Sure.
What are some ideas to make my bathroom feel larger? How do I know if I'm picking the right vanity? How do I choose a new toilet or a new countertop? Also, the lighting is terrible. Can I put a window or a skylight? And do I really need an exhaust fan?
You've come to the right place. At Brand Source, we custom design kitchen and baths, and our talented design team can help answer your questions. Whether you're looking for a modern, functional family bathroom or a luxurious personal retreat, we'll help create that beautiful space that makes your home yours. And if you're in a rush for a new look and have a limited budget, our ready-to-install bathroom vanities, built with solid wood and countertops of the finest materials, are a quick and easy remodeling solution.
For the very best in custom-designed kitchens and baths, visit Brand Source Home Gallery on Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park, Cayman's new kitchen and bath center.
Le Classique's tent sale is this Saturday at the Trilogy Building on Mary Street, 7 a.m. until 6 p.m. Ladies and men's footwear up to 75% off. Clearance prices as low as $10. Don't miss the shoe-tacular deals at Le Classique's tent sale this Saturday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. at the Trilogy Building on Mary Street.
Tune in every Monday through Friday from 3 to 6 p.m. for Radio Cayman's Super Jam Show, the #1 drive time entertainment show on your radio, featuring Will Sinatra. Enjoy a mix of pop, hip-hop, reggae, and calypso, and an entertainment trivia section. The Super Jams show is fueled by the proud sponsorship of Merengue Town. It's time to feel the rhythm, time to feel the vibes. It's time for Merengue Town.
Is this thing working? Give me some sound over here.
Every Monday through Friday from 3 to 6 p.m. Radio Cayman's Super Jam Show, the #1 drive time entertainment show for your radio, featuring Will Sinatra.
Now, sound is everything.
Enjoy a mix of pop, hip-hop, reggae, and calypso, and an entertainment trivia section. The Super Jam Show is fueled by the proud sponsorship of the Cayman Islands Football Association. SIFA, building a better future for Cayman football.
The 2018 Fall Labor Force Survey, LFS, conducted by the Economics and Statistics Office, ESO, starts on Sunday, September 30th, 2018. The LFS collects data on employed and unemployed persons. Trained interviewers with ESO ID cards will visit randomly selected households in all districts. The interviews are confidential in accordance with the statistics law. No individual data will be published or disclosed. Survey data are exempt from freedom of information. For more details, please call the ESO hotline 516-3329.
89.9 Radio Cayman helps you to weather the storm during this hurricane season.
One of the most crucial elements of hurricane preparedness is storm awareness. During the season, it is of utmost importance to pay attention to the latest local weather forecasts, as hurricanes do not suddenly form or strike. There are various methods of advanced notification. Utilizing such may be the difference between a favorable outcome and disaster. Both television and radio serve as excellent mediums with up-to-the-minute storm path information in the wake of a hurricane. Another method of tracking a hurricane may be only arm's length away. Your smartphone or tablet can be your most valuable tool before, during, and after a storm, providing countless numbers of apps with crucial hurricane information. Many apps allow you to track storms with moving radar and satellite imagery, plus offer alerts, current conditions, forecasts, advisories, and even video.
This hurricane preparedness tip was brought to you by your community radio station, Radio Cayman, 89.9 FM.
It's your time, Cayman Islands. Time to have your say. The Cayman opposition will be hosting community meetings to discuss the future of Cayman's cruise industry. Get the accurate industry figures and ensure you have your say. Does Cayman lag behind our competitors? What are the complaints from passengers? And are tenders workable? Get the truth and help ensure Cayman's future cruise industry remains bright. Phase 1 of the opposition island-wide meetings will take place at 7:30 p.m. on Tuesday, October 2nd, Northside Civic Center. Wednesday, October 3rd, Bottomtown Civic Center, and Thursday, October 4th, Savannah Primary School Hall. Phase 2 of the district meetings will be scheduled next week. It is your time, Cayman Islands. It is time to have your say. The Cayman opposition, safeguarding our future.
Attention all Cayman Islands Veterans Association, CIVA members. A reminder here that the Cayman Islands Veterans Association, CIVA's annual general meeting, AGM, is scheduled to take place on Saturday, 29th of September at 2 p.m. at the Cayman Islands Seafarers Association Hall on Victory Avenue in Prospect. You need to be there. Following the AGM, a social is scheduled for 4 p.m., which is open to all veterans, especially Cayman veterans who have served in the armed forces of any NATO or British Commonwealth country. Come and enjoy and learn about the Cayman Islands Veterans Association and their work in support of veterans' welfare. For further information, call 916-7755, 916-0701, or 916-5317.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. We invite you to be a part of our discussion. It's 949-8037. Of course, you can call toll free at 1-800-534-8255. WhatsApp 925-3261. I even offer you the email. Yeah, Susan will read it. No, she won't read it. Email talktoday@candw.ky. Mario Rankin, Michelle Lockwood joins us, and as we talk about the cruise port referendum. Now, respectful of the caller on the air prior to the break, I heard some things, asked some questions, and made some comments. Mr. Rankin?
Well, I just want to address a few things that he said, and I think it's important that Mr. Mick understands that whenever I say anything on this radio, it's not intended to insult anybody or disrespect anybody. I'm a firm believer that if you have your opinion, and I'm willing to listen to yours, that I have mine, and I would expect you to reciprocate the same. The reality is that when I respond to something that someone says that is at a detriment of the continuity of Caymanians, and they take it as an insult, I didn't mean it that way. And that's not what I intended. However, if the truth offends you to a point where you feel insulted, I can't help that. The reality is that we are well aware that if past generations had done a better job of putting strategic planning in place to ensure that, one, our environment was first and foremost, and that we took very good care of it, like our forefathers did that went to sea, that made sure that the money that they pumped back into this economy was so that we could enjoy the Cayman Islands as it was. We all understand that we don't want to go back to mosquitoes. We don't want to sleep. Most people don't want to sleep on plant and trash pillows, which I find is very comforting. But at the end of the day, no one is trying to go back into the days of the hardship of mosquitoes. That's not what nobody's saying. The reality is that when we have sustainable development, it must be a reflection of who we was historically, morally, and subconsciously. So when we talk about having referendum, Mr. Mika he asked a few questions, and we waited till he asked all his questions. We didn't interrupt. And one of the questions is that who makes the decisions? The people we elect, why are we having referendum, and why we didn't have referendum for the pension? Well, what you identify that is a matter of national importance, which the Constitution speaks very vividly about. The reality is that when they imposed the pension, Sterling, there was no right of referendum in our Constitution. That came in 2009, right? So we didn't have the ability to take that to a referendum, which I think is something that anybody could look at on any issue about referendum. You still have to prove that it's a matter of national importance in order to engage in a petition. And to his question about who makes the decisions and who has the autonomy to make the decisions, because we elect these members. Remember who goes to the polls. Remember who go out and sift through all information through the whole entire campaign process so that we can go out and exercise our democratic right to elect who we feel would be best to champion the issues and the fundamental things that affect our everyday life. And we go out and we elect that person. And when he asks the question about the petition and whether or not it's for this or that, if Mr. Mickey didn't understand the concept behind what we're doing, and if he hadn't heard it before, and I think Michelle and everybody that has been on the radio has made it very, very clear that this petition is to enact a referendum under the Constitution, Section 70, which gives us the right under a matter of national importance. This dock is a matter of national importance. It affects us in many ways tremendously, so it's a matter of national importance. That's the reason why we could get this petition engaged. And when you get this petition engaged, if we meet the required threshold of 5,288, which is 25% of the electorate under the Constitution requirements, then, Mr. Mickey, and for all of those who is confused, you can go out and cast your vote at the referendum whether or not you support or not support. So you can go and say at that referendum, it's because the referendum is not going to say, do you support a petition? Yes or no. It's not going to say, do you support Sterling of having a Bentley? Yes or no. It's going to say, do you support the port? Yes or no.
Right.
That's what the petition is for.
Sorry to interrupt. If I may, there's a couple of WhatsApps are coming in, and these two seem to speak to the same or similar issue with respect to the referendum. Paraphrasing the last one, it says, maybe as a public we're confusing it. It isn't that the referendum is telling, the petition is saying, hey, this is the vote for or against. It's asking for a referendum. Yeah. And asking if we could clarify that, because it makes it confusing, deliberate otherwise.
I'm going to read this verbatim so that you understand exactly what we're saying. So we're saying that the proposed cruise berthing facility, a matter of national importance, be decided solely by referendum pursuant to the Constitution. So it's very clear there. It's not for, it's not against. It's just saying that we as the people want to go and we want to have a say. We want to put an X on a box and say yes or no to the port.
Okay. I don't even want to confuse it any further. The other one is saying, but if I'm for the port, but I'm not for the present proposal, or I'm not for, the sufficient clarity, and I don't know. And the question is, do you support a port, yes or no? What do I put? Because yes, I am for the port, but not for this for whatever reasons. Right. So
you mean not for the?
Sorry, yeah.
Not for the location, you mean?
Yeah.
They might be for the current location or the current design in which which they have now. So what I say to that is this: is that the only how you're going to be satisfied with wherever they want to build it and however they're going to build it and however they're going to pay for it is if we have a referendum, because then all information has to come forward. So that person will have an opportunity to weigh in their opinion based on all of the facts. Because right now, there were a lot of things that were asked last night that according to the new procurement law, that they weren't allowed to tell us. And I think that law was just recently enacted, right? So that way that they could be protected from having to divulge that information to the public, which is essential. Because for you to tell me, the people who are concerned about the magnitude of the project and various aspects, that after you go through the procurement process and that is done, and now you are able to give us that information that we are primarily concerned about after the procurement process, and we can't do anything about it once you've selected that final bidder, then I think that we're going about it from a backward position. Because then we're going to be in a reactive situation. Because if the concerns of the people weren't allowed to be heard prior to the procurement process because the law prohibited it, then if that process is not the best thing environmentally, economically, or infrastructurally, then we have made a grave mistake, because we can't reverse it. So that's why this petition is essential to the process, because now that we are not allowed to hear all of the information based on the procurement law, right? Then now the only other route for us to take, and this is everybody, including those who stands to benefit the most from this repair, it's important to them as well, because now even to them would have an opportunity to hear, see, understand. Because if we believe that after the procurement process and they have selected the final bidder and the preferred bidder to do this project, it's done. It's a signed, sealed, delivered deal. Public consultation means nothing at that point. So we, as generation now collectively, have to continue this petition to move forward. And I encourage everybody, because, the reality is that in order for us to get that information that the procurement law is keeping us out of, this is the only process that we can go through now to get that information.
Let's pick up that after our news, and let's ask the question about from what the Honourable Minister has shared in relation to the 6 months timeline and the like, and how that plays in. Please stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman.
Radio Cayman's newsroom. These are the biggest stories right now.
The Royal Cayman Islands Police Service warns the public about online scams on LinkedIn. Police say they've gotten several reports of fake public figure accounts sending out connection requests in an attempt to snag sensitive information such as banking details or to seek money directly. More than 15 cases have been reported since June. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines. In news elsewhere, a police chief has been stabbed to death in the city of Rodez in southern France outside the city hall. Pascal Felot was stabbed 3 times in the middle of the street by an individual known to police. French radio network France Info reports that the suspect's dog was taken away from him a week ago. This reportedly led him to threaten the mayor and the police chief. Mr. Felot died of his injuries in hospital shortly after the incident. Germany has beaten Turkey to host Euro 2024 after a vote by UEFA's executive committee today. The two countries made final bid presentations before voting took place in Switzerland. The decision means Germany will stage the European Championship for the first time as a unified country, with West Germany having hosted the 1988 tournament. And a German tourist has been trampled to death by an elephant as she tried to photograph the animal in Zimbabwe. Authorities in Zimbabwe say the attack occurred on Wednesday in Manapul's National Park, and the tourist succumbed to her injuries later the same day. The woman was in a group of tourists who encountered a herd of elephants upon entering the park. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
We need to talk. Okay. We've noticed you've been going to KFC a lot more than usual lately.
And that's fine. We know you love it.
We just don't understand how you can afford it.
The KFC What a Deal menu, starting at just $3.50, gives you lots of great choices and value. Available at KFC Baytown Plaza, Shedden Road, and in the Strand. The KFC What a Deal value menu, the deal everyone should know about. Come to KFC and enjoy a variety of tasty choices at surprising prices. KFC, so good.
From happy beginnings to happy ever after.
BritK protects your lifestyle with the best insurance cover at the best possible price.
Health insurance with far-reaching benefits.
95% of claims settled in 5 days.
Low-cost life insurance.
And investments.
Security in retirement.
With a custodian pension plan.
For happy beginnings and a happy ever after.
Visit BritK.ky or call 949-8699.
BritK, where people come first.
The Advance Automotive Chevrolet $10,000 birthday giveaway is still on. Buy any new Chevrolet from Advance Automotive and enter to win $10,000 cash. Entries close 1st of December or after 100 cars sold, whichever comes first. Pick up a brand new Chevrolet Trax compact SUV, the most equipped SUV in its class. Now reduced to just $19,995. Get the best deal in Cayman and enter to win $10,000 cash. Visit the showroom on Owen Roberts Drive or visit AdvanceChevrolet.com for more details today.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today in the studio as we talk about the cruise port referendum. Mario Rankin, Michelle Lockwood are our guests. Phone lines are open. So are the WhatsApps, 925-3261. We'll read one. I don't think this is very long. I don't think it's impossible to read it verbatim. But for those who want to call, 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. Can I just share this WhatsApp? It says, government needs to deal with the unfinished school and the dump before thinking about building a cruise dock. Now, I didn't count the words, but there weren't many.
Yeah,
very succinct.
That's one. Somebody did bring that up last night, and It's funny because the Honourable Minister Kirkconnell actually was speaking about how great our schools are, and she respectfully disagreed because at the end of the day, I mean, we've been to UCCI as well too. Like, I mean, honestly, I think we're failing our I mean, I'm not quite that young generation anymore, but I think we are failing our kids. Like, in so many ways, we're failing our kids, and that's so much more important because at the end of the day, the kids are our future in so many ways. Like Mario and I were talking about this earlier about, our jails being at capacity. We need to stop them needing a new courthouse and bragging about buying the Scotiabank building, because we need to stop needing a bigger courthouse. We should figure out a way to work with what we got and reduce crime in the first place. And it's starting with kids, because kids are our future, and unfortunately and I know Naomi was talking the last time we went to UCCI that there's some people that are like just like, oh, I want money. And that's the thing, is that the numbers that they're throwing out are, oh, you're going to have, and 1.35 million is sailing by every year. Every week or something. I can't remember.
A year, I don't know.
And, those numbers sound really nice when you say millions to young kids. And so they're kind of like latching onto it. And unfortunately, we're not addressing the wider issues with kids.
We had a couple of calls online, but someone reminds me, I older hate, so you can't miss what you never had.
Yeah.
Let's go to our phones. Hey, good afternoon. Welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Hello?
Hey, good afternoon, sir.
Hey, Dwayne, it's Eden Hurlston. How you doing?
Listen, I call you sir, so I hope you don't mind. It's not...
That's all right.
Good afternoon to you, man.
Sir, and me, sir. I'll call you sir as well.
Thank you, sir.
Mario, Michelle, how you all doing?
Good. How are you?
Good to hear from you.
Keeping up the good fight. Thank you all for all your effort with this.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
It's very important that the truth come out. I caught some of the meeting last night. I was hoping to be able to be there, but couldn't attend, but watched on the live stream. And I didn't get to see quite all of it, but I did not really hear a couple of things addressed that are incredible importance to me. So maybe they were addressed, and I'm just didn't get to hear it. But the very first thing is that I know that Minister Kirkconnell continually says that when this government was elected in, people automatically voted for a port.
Yep.
Yeah.
But to my memory, we elected in an independent government.
Exactly.
Correct. And then the independents were absorbed into the PPM with their port paradigm going on.
Exactly.
So I hope he's listening right now, because I just want to make sure that my memory was good on that
We
point.
addressed that. I think we had we definitely told him that we didn't believe that.
Good, because I was hoping somebody would clarify him on that little minor aspect of things. We voted in an independent government. That was very important to me, because I'm someone who hasn't believed in party politics since I was 17 years old. So that was a big win, and then to see the political meandering that went on to turn it into, once again, a party politics was not surprising, but disappointing, to say the least. And here we are. Some points that I didn't really see talked about too much is, all right, it seemed that there was some confusion about whether or not they're just bringing bigger ships or they're bringing more people, because they were talking about the same amount of people and no more infrastructural load happening, but that doesn't make any sense to me for making a $300 million investment. So if we have more people, a big question to me is, where are they going to go? Yeah. I mean, I've been to Public Beach lately. I've been to Stingray City on days when it's busy, and I don't know how many more actual feet can fit on it.
Yeah.
I don't know how many more people can actually sit on Public Beach, or can be at Smith Cove, or can fit at Stingray City. So I'm confused as to how it is necessarily going to benefit people to have more cruise shippers here, besides the infrastructural overload in town, where you can't barely find a bench to sit in the shade to have a lunch if you want to.
Yeah.
It's to me, it's a big cart before the horse is even born scenario. We don't have, our island is small. We will never compete with Jamaica or Cuba in terms of how many beaches or the activities there are to do. What our stronghold is quality.
Exactly.
The people who I know who have come here year after year after year after year after year for years and years and years, they don't go to town anymore.
Yep.
For the simple fact that the cruise shippers are filling the town.
Yep.
And I don't see how having more of them in is going to benefit us necessarily. The other part of it, besides the environmental impact, besides the infrastructural impact and the obvious things that are the obvious logistical things that are going on with this proposal, is I really want anyone who's listening right now who is a voting Caymanian who might be on the fence about this topic to think about, what do we want to be in 50 years?
Yeah.
In 20 years, in 50 years, in 100 years, when our children's grandchildren are starting to come of age, what do we want to be? Do we want to be the secret little crown jewel of the Caribbean, where you have to come in the country and you have to stay a little while because there's music to hear, there's art to see, there's people to meet and talk to. It's a safe place. It's a place where you want to be. The sandy beaches, you want to spend the whole day on one beach, right? And I urge everyone listening to think about how much better whatever money is available could be spent if we spent it on taking care of our elders, taking care of our children, building up our schools. When my son was born in Georgetown Hospital, I had to sleep overnight in a bean bag that was from the 70s. And you have this great staff of people running around dealing with things in such a good way, and they have the facilities that they can't handle what's going on there. The bed was old. So what about the money for all that stuff? What about the seafarers who you march out on Heroes Day and give them awards, but then when they come and Captain Brian and Captain Cam and everybody is trying to lend their practical wisdom about how these seas work in Cayman, and then we try to tell them what's what, as if we know the sea better than they do. We need to take care of these people, and this money could be spent in so many better ways to make this island clean, beautiful, safe, with educated people, with people who aren't desperate and ready to commit crime to make ends meet, bring down the cost of living, bring down the cost of insurance, and help the people here first. Anything that makes our island stronger and more beautiful and more pristine and safer is going to be better for visitors. Agreed. And the kind of visitors we want are the ones who are going to stay and have a cultural experience. That's how I want to see Cayman be in 50 years. When my son is an old man, I want him to think of how there's still some trees, there's still some beach, there's still some fish in the sea, there's still some coral to see. There are quality people to talk to and good people who are aware of their culture and proud of where they live. And this port is pushing us in the opposite direction. And I really want everybody out there who can vote on this to think about this. If you're on the fence about this, think of what it will be like when mega ships are in and they're dwarfing all the town and we can't see the sea anymore.
10
think
stories
of what
high.
it will be like with another 4,000 people.
Yeah.
Thanks very much for giving us something to think about. Enjoy your afternoon, my friend.
Did they, if they answer the question about how they have a plan to deal with the traffic on 7 Mile Beach?
No.
To deal with Stingray City?
Nope.
I'd be very interested to hear what they proffered for that, because I didn't hear very many answers last night at all.
No, they couldn't answer anything.
They couldn't answer any of those.
No.
All right. Hey, thank you very much, sir. We do have a couple of calls. Let's just take each one.
Let's take them.
Sure.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome. Thank you for sharing your views with us.
Good afternoon, Sterling Dwayne. Good afternoon to your panel.
Afternoon, my friend.
I actually wasn't able to make the meeting because I have clients in from out of town, and I was with them. But I tuned in as soon as I got back to my place and at least listened online. I was really glad to know that it was very well attended, comparatively speaking to most public meetings that's held by government, and especially considering that it was being streamed live as well as on TV. We still had a very large crowd there, which I think should really state to the government or impress the government that this is how serious people are taking it. I'm coming from a different angle because I'm not anti-port. I think we need to do something for our future, and I think we need to expand. I don't know enough. I don't know what's going on there to know whether it's right or wrong, and that's where my objection is that we need to know what's happening here. And the last government, out of all governments we've had in the past, the last government that I would listen to say, "Trust me, we got this," is going to be this present government, and that is not a slight at Mr. Kirkconnell at all. That is a direct indictment on the Minister Alden McLaughlin and what he's done with those schools and what he's not doing with those schools today. 12 years later, we still have schools with parts of schools rebar sticking out of the ground, and no real thrust towards resolving that issue with any sense of urgency, which just leaves me shaking my head, because I found that whole fiasco pretty much criminal in my opinion. When you think that someone built a school for $110 million for 800 students. But I digress. What I'm really calling about here is what's concerning me is what I haven't heard anybody, for the most part, bring up, and that is, how can we accept the proposed numbers of tourists in one shot on a much quicker timeline into Georgetown Center that has no parking infrastructure, that has no traffic infrastructure, and that is well documented that when we have large numbers of cruise passengers, when we have the 6 and 7 ships in the really high season, and the odd occasion when other ships get diverted for whatever reason, we end up having, between 6 and 7 ships. It's an absolute zoo. And we're being now told that there's going to be, this is a 3-year, which understandably so, to build something of that magnitude would be a 3-year process. And when these things unfold, what are we going to do to alleviate our traffic problem? How are we going to get to work? Are you now saying that we're going to have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to get to work on time? I mean, and I'm not being facetious with that question, because I can assure you the people from East End have to do that now.
Yeah.
And everybody's marveling at the Linford-Pearson Highway, which comes to bottleneck again at the roundabout prior to the horse stables. That is property that is in legal wranglings with one of the current ministers.
Yep.
All right? Nobody's asking what's happening with that, 800-yard stretch of road that's, bottling traffic like nobody's business. How is this issue not even resolved?
I agree.
We have the NRA who seem to be operating like schizophrenic.
And we have
they don't know which road to start and finish.
And we have a land compulsory law that gives the government the autonomy to take the land. It's a land compulsory law. It's in the law.
Yeah. So we have all of these here, and I'm just using that as an example, as to say we can't even, and we're bragging that our coffers are full, yet our roads are falling apart. I was again in Eastern Districts this morning. I had to be there all morning. And so therefore, traversing these roads, I see patches that have been fixed, but I'm seeing most of the roads are just literally falling apart.
Yeah.
And if we can't even, maintain our own infrastructure, daily infrastructure, and we're biting off again we're biting off one of the largest infrastructure projects ever recorded by Cayman. And the sad part about it is that we don't have a real business case for this, because the numbers aren't changing of any significance, and we are, in the top 5 desired cruise destinations as it is?
Yep.
Yeah. And where are the numbers for this amount of square feet that we have in town that will accommodate, because for everybody that's there in the design world, there's an assigned square footage per person that would be required to have a comfortable experience. Where is the documents on this that says Cayman Georgetown Central can handle X amount of people per day? Stingray City can handle X amount of boats which carry X amount of people per day.
Yeah, they don't have that.
And they don't. So it just drives. I'm just sitting here completely baffled, and it can only think of Minister Christopher Saunders' comment, which is so simple yet true. The same thinking that got us into this mess cannot be the same thinking that's going to get us out of it. Wow. And so leaving the port aside, my question is, how do we deal with Georgetown and not impact the few people now who work there? And the fact that he was so elated to say that we bought this courthouse really bothered me.
Eddie, I just want to say this. Mr. Kirkconnell said that part of the new revitalization of Georgetown by the government was to buy this building for the courthouse.
He also did mention he was expanding roads so that they could pedestrianize.
Yes, and to your point, Eddie, what's amazing and that is of grave concern of a lot of the concerned citizens who went out to that meeting is how are we going to accommodate? Where's the infrastructure design and upgrade, and who's going to pay for that? Obviously, we are. So you hit the nail on the head, and these are the type of questions that we wanted answered. We couldn't get any answers.
This is my point. Let's have a business plan to pay for it. And I mean, why has the government right now? I was a former juror, just I think last year or the year before. I can't even remember. Time flies now. But one thing I do remember was they couldn't find anywhere to park. And some of the jurors were getting fined for not showing up on time, and it's simply because there's no place to park. We had the Tower Building property all blocked off, and then we have this wonderful piece of property behind the library. Why isn't there a multi-story car park? Why aren't we encouraging giving tax concessions to some of the business owners here if they decide to build a multi-story car park? We have to be proactive about this whole thing.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, our government just does it is always reactive, and then it creates other situations to which we have to react to.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, thanks very much, sir, for sharing. We do have a number of the callers. Let's see if we can get them all. Good afternoon. Welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Good afternoon, Dwayne.
Hey, good afternoon, sir.
And good afternoon to your guest.
Good afternoon.
Welcome.
Yeah. Dwayne, if you can, please introduce your guest again before I say my comment.
You want me to introduce my guest?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, yes. We have in the studio Michelle Lockwood. We have Mario Rankin.
And what the lady working and where?
I don't.
Do you want to know her height and what color shirt she's wearing? I mean, I'm not trying to be facetious, but why is that important now?
What she doing? What's her profession?
But why is that important? Amjad. Sorry, is it there? Yeah.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. Anyway, yesterday I listened to Mr. Corconol struggling to answer the question. Unfortunately, even the civil servant he bring with one lady, she asked very valuable question. I don't know her name, I don't know who's she, but I was listening in the radio. What is the impact happen in the region for a port being built? And she meant Falmouth in Jamaica, the port being built in Jamaica. And I get the chance to visit that location myself. And I see, Dwayne, when you drop a bump in the ground and the place is black, from the burn, like you burn a place, you see the place is around that beer is like burn, like, you drop a bump in the place. It's like a black, it's the environment is completely damaged. From what I ask people there and I read about the issue, is the environmental damage happened in Jamaica is unbelievable. And the issue is not about, as I said before, is not about what is good for the Caymanian people. Both sides are fighting. The business people, which the government supporting the business people, Mr. Corconol wants that port by any price, no matter how much debt the Caymanian people have to carry. We know that this country is all billions of dollars in debt, and now the millions of dollars going to be added to that by Mr. Corconol just to serve his own agenda, personal agenda, to serve the business people. And the other side is fighting to keep no board because they want this tender to continue so other rich family can make money. This fight is not about the Caymanian people, not for the betterment of the Caymanian people. It's fight between two sides, rich sides. And they bring it last night, they bring people to clap for both sides. You know, they I don't know what the benefit to sit down there and clap for each side, but it seems in the last thing in the world, this government and the one before thinking about, you know, that man sleep from 4 years in Georgetown in a car, and they say they want to develop Georgetown.
Yes, sir. Well, not quite sure I follow all that, but thanks. Let's take the caller. Good afternoon. Welcome. You're on Talk Today. Hello, good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon, Dwayne.
Good afternoon. How are you, sir?
Okay.
Good to hear from you.
Good afternoon. Yeah, same. And good afternoon to you guests also.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon, man.
Yeah, well, when it comes to cruise ship dock, if they're speaking about the mega ships, then the dock is something that we will need, not want. And also when it comes to the safety of the passengers, it's also better to have the dock. But then, when it comes to the environment, I do not agree with destroying reefs or any part of the ocean. And it's also my belief that after that dock is built, and from the dredging, the sea surge will go further into Georgetown. And when I say that, it could go as far as the post office. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Thanks very much. Can we grab one more, Miss Susan? No? She said, boy, listen, are you pushing it? Okay. I'm just teasing her. We're going to pause and take a break. We invite you to call us, though, so please stay tuned for Talk Today.
Le Classique's tent sale is this Saturday at the Trilogy Building on Mary Street, 7 a.m. until 6 p.m. Ladies and men's footwear up to 75% off. Clearance prices as low as $10. Don't miss the shoe-tacular deals at Le Classique's tent sale this Saturday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. at the Trilogy Building on Mary Street.
Earth, fire, wind, water.
Harness the magic power of the four elements during the Miss Cayman Miss World pageant Saturday, September 29th at the Hartwell Theater. Be on hand to see who will wear the crown and represent the Cayman Islands at the Miss World pageant. Tickets are limited, so purchase them today at Rock Gorgeous, Back to Health, and Beyond Basics for $50 general and $75 VIP, which includes a cocktail. Doors open at 6. Show starts at 7:30. Cash bar is available.
Witness the magic.
Super Jam Showdown.
Gospel music has gone too far.
Positive Monday. Population Tuesday. Latino Heat Wednesday to Thursday. Back the hands of time.
Supersonic.
Day Friday Brack Party Block Top 10 Count to Female Friday.
Radio Cayman Super Jam Showdown. Weekdays 3 to 6. Brought to you by
Leap Diversify.
At Leap Diversify, they are dedicated to your educational pursuits. Visit www.leapdiversify.com.
Leap Diversify. They don't succeed unless you succeed.
Babe, not tonight. I need to be rested for all-day meetings tomorrow.
What are you talking about? I was almost asleep.
You keep poking me, and I can't sleep.
That's the mattress spring I keep telling you about. Not me. We really need to get a new mattress.
Tossing and turning, back hurting, can't sleep? It might be time to turn in your old mattress and go to bed with a new one. Browse the huge mattress showroom at Brand Source Home Gallery and pick the perfect mattress today. With mattresses to suit every budget, Brand Source Home Gallery stocks a wide selection of sizes and styles like Pillow Top and Gel Memory Foam. So stop tossing and turning and sleep better tonight with a new mattress from Brand Source Home Gallery, Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park.
CUC advises customers in the Pedro Castle Road area in Savannah that they will experience interruptions to their electrical service on Saturday, September 29th, between 8:30 a.m. and 6 p.m. Areas affected include all customers on Pedro Castle Road from the junction with Shamrock Road, including Homestead Crescent from the United Church east to Domino's, Astral Way, Sandy Ground Drive from the junction with Pedro Castle Road to house number 134, West Lane, Adams Lane, Charity Lane, Pedro Villas Lane, and all side roads. Houses 1742, 1803, 1828, and the Church of God Full Gospel Hall on Shamrock Road will also be affected. Motorists are asked to drive with caution when utilizing Pedro Castle Road, as CUC will have a number of vehicles and personnel in this area. CUC apologizes for this interruption, which is necessary to upgrade lines and poles in the area. For more information on the outage and streets affected, please contact CUC's customer service team at 949-5200 or email service@cuc.ky.
89.9 Radio Cayman helps you to weather the storm during this hurricane season.
One of the most crucial elements of hurricane preparedness is storm awareness. During the season, it is of utmost importance to pay attention to the latest local weather forecast, as hurricanes do not suddenly form or strike. There are various methods of advanced notification. Utilizing such may be the difference between a favorable outcome and disaster. Both television and radio serve as excellent mediums with up-to-the-minute storm path information in the wake of a hurricane. Another method of tracking a hurricane may be only arm's length away. Your smartphone or tablet can be your most valuable tool before, during, and after a storm, providing countless numbers of apps with crucial hurricane information. Many apps allow you to track storms with moving radar and satellite imagery, plus offer alerts, current conditions, forecasts, advisories, and even video.
This hurricane preparedness tip was brought to you by your community radio station, Radio Cayman, 89.9 FM.
We are Radio Cayman, and this is how we wake you up in the morning. Praise time. Praise time on Radio Cayman. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I'm gonna walk them golden stairs, 'cause I know my Jesus answers all my prayers. Praise time.
Weekday mornings from 6 until 6:30.
Praise time.
There's nothing to go back to. Give me Jesus in the morning. For the God of the mountain is still God in the valley.
Shout with joy to God, all the earth sing glory to His name.
Praise time. Praise time.
Jesus in the morning, yeah.
Weekday mornings from 6 until 6:30.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. Thank you for sharing with us in the studio. Mario Rankin, Michelle Lockwood, our guests, and Cruise Port referendum, CPR. I'll keep making sure I don't misstate that, so my apologies. Right. Couple of callers, couple of comments.
Yeah, well, I think most people kind of touched on the carrying capacity, which Mr. Tim Adam attempted to talk about. But I think Eden, and I can't remember the other caller's name, you know, we all agree with you. At the end of the day, our attractions are completely saturated. When you think about people getting off the cruise and they go, I want to go and sit on the beach, which I think Eden was saying, there's no spot to put your feet. You know, Royal Palms is, we've got, 6 months to a year on that. I don't even know if they're taking cruise tourists anymore. Hemingway's is closed. Tiki Beach is closed. All we can offer them right now is a little portion of Smith Cove. What do you call it? Governor's Beach. I hope nobody's going to Governor's Beach. And then Public Beach. And And I've been out where Calico's is, like on cruise ship days, and I think it's absolutely ridiculous, like fighting for a chair and a place to put your little bit of towel. And mind you, the beach is eroding as well too. So like even that part, we completely agree. And unfortunately, I don't feel that we got an answer last night that satisfied what we were concerned about with the carrying capacity of this island, right. Because Stingray City is always at capacity. I know Mr. Adams said that the turtle farm could accommodate more. I think he said he had 1,000 guests a day on some days on his busiest.
Yeah,
but
over 1,000.
But I don't understand how the turtle farm can actually
justify
fit more than 1,000 people a day. That's a great thing. The other thing that we need to think about is that when they talk about, they're going to have however many extra passengers a year, that's all going to happen over the high season. It's not like we're going to get extra passengers more spread out over the low season, because the low season is a low season for a reason, because of the weather, because of hurricanes, because people are having better weather in their own countries. People are coming here because they want to escape the winter. So I don't know. It's just a lot of holes in what was said last night.
Yeah, and back to Mr. Eden and to Mr. Thompson, when it comes to infrastructure and carrying capacities. And we did hear Mr. Tim Adam try to explain how the capacity at the turtle farm, which I didn't see what relevance that had to whether we should build a cruise port. Certainly we would encourage, for the turtle farm to do well, and for any passengers that we do get to go to the turtle farm. We understand that. But when we look at the infrastructure streams that we currently have, in a report that was done in 2013 by the Mott McDonald Group, they identified that that NRA, they had talks with NRA, and NRA had already identified that even if we didn't do a cruise berthing, that they were already existing stream to the infrastructure that we had based on the numbers that were coming off the docks at that current time without the piers, and that they would have been significant road upgrades and infrastructure upgrade, and that they weren't any funding for that. Also, that report talked about the cruise berthing being adequate enough to berth all ships, as opposed to some and somehow to tender, and that the conversation that they had with some of the cruise lines, that if they weren't able to berth, and some ships were, that they would not tender, they would just pass by. So, there's a dynamics to this that hadn't been talked about. There are things that have been deliberately left out. We understand the importance of our cruise tourism. We understand why we have to do everything in our power to strike that balance, to ensure that we maintain a quality product, and that we under no circumstances jeopardize the very thing that attract all of our tourism to our shores, and that is our environment, our beaches, our friendly destination, our safe destination. So when we were in that meeting last night, a lot of the questions that were posed were these very same questions, and a lot of those questions just could be answered. The disembarkation and the things that people and like one of the people that emailed or texted in. Was talking about the safety of passengers on and off the ship and whatnot. The funny thing is that when you look at the liabilities and the process that it takes to get on and off the ship and whatnot, for a jurisdiction like Cayman, who's been tendering since the 1930s, we've had probably 2 incidents. One incident was where one of the ship tenders tried to dock and get a passenger off during rough weather when they were warned to go to spots. And that lady got injured, and it wasn't our tender, it was the ship tender. Had nothing to do with us, right? But the reality is that if we are gonna focus on what our tourism product is, what we provide, and how we go about providing that service, like Michelle said earlier, we can't extend Stingray City. We can't extend the little square beach we got next to the Kempton now. We see where DART has done a wonderful job of boxing us in that area, and then throwing Mexican sand on our beach. Also, Royal Palm will be closed in a few months, and this is my own personal opinion, I did a lot of research, and I found out that there are 11 water taxis all enclosed bought by a certain company. And it dawned on me when I realized what's about to take place. Okay, cruise berthing. I'm speaking hypothetically, right? Cruise berthing brings Oasis-sized ship, which is the higher spenders, right? All right. 11 water taxis being shuttled from downtown to the Royal Palm area, right? Whatever facilities they have there, it will be a beach bar similar to Tiki Beach. There'll be a lot of facilities and umbrellas and chairs and water sports. And then that high-end spend tourists which come off the Oasis ship will then have an opportunity to walk from Royal Palm straight into Camana Bay, where the high-end tourists would be able to shop. Then the people who are in tenders on the smaller ship will have to stay in the areas where they are able to shop, which is the downtown area and all the other areas. So I say to all of those operators and all those tour operators who put on a yellow shirt and a white shirt and got behind this, how are you going to compete with 11 brand new water taxis? They're going to take them to take those same high spend tourists to a high spend environment like Camana Bay. We have to be very conscious and aware of what's going on in our country, and this is the reason why we have these conversations.
All right. I took a call off here during the break, and I just want to share that with you now.
Of course.
The person said, listen, this is a call off here, came in as you saw me walk out during the break. The person said, listen, I'm being told that if I'm anti-port, then I sign the petition. Now, I asked the person, why don't you call in and share this because,
right.
But, you know, how that goes sometimes. So he says he's heard it a couple of times. Well, you sign a petition if you're anti-port. Yeah. How do you respond to that? I mean,
well, Michelle, you want to take a stab?
No, it's okay. You're good.
Okay.
I think we've said this enough, and we've reiterated this enough. This is not a petition for or against the port. It is simply a petition so that we can initiate a referendum, a people's initiated referendum, so that we can go to the polls and we can make a decision, yes or no. Do we want this proposed cruise berthing facility?
This particular one.
And I want to add that this petition has no bearing over any decision to do the port or not do the port. This petition has nothing to do with that. All this petition does is take us to a threshold that allows us to have that process, and then you can go in and vote for or against.
Okay. Let's have a chance to go to our callers. Join us in the studio, Mario Rankin, Michelle Lockwood. Hey, good afternoon and welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Good evening.
Evening.
You and your guest there.
How are you?
Good afternoon.
Fine, thanks. Good afternoon. Regarding the meeting that we had last night, in fact, I would like to publicly thank the minister for having the meeting. It was a very good meeting, but unfortunately I had to leave before it came to a close. But I don't know if Mario can help me regarding some of the questions that was asked. Did anyone ask the question how often would if we were allowed, if we go ahead with a pair in the Cayman Islands, especially Georgetown, how often will one of these Oasis ships be coming? It will be on a daily basis, or once a week, or once every 2 weeks?
Well,
I'll hang up and wait for the answer because I didn't catch that one.
Thank you.
Well, I don't think that they definitively said when the scheduling of those ships would come. But I do know that I read somewhere in one of the packages that those ships would probably come during the slow season, right? Which I think that if we had a pair, that would be significant to our economy, because where we don't have the other ships coming because of the reasons Michelle mentioned, or then we had these higher spend coming during the slow season, then that would make economic sense.
All right. Well.
Yeah, but I can assure you that you're not going to have 4 Genesis or Oasis-sized ships parked on that pier at any one time.
Yeah. How many of them are on that itinerary at one time in the Western Caribbean?
Well, right now they have 9 on order, and right now they only have, I think it's 1 or 2 in the region.
That's Carnival, right?
And that's Carnival.
Yeah. But I don't know, of the 9 that they were ordering, do you know if that was for how many was for the Caribbean?
Yeah, that's
globally.
Globally.
Yeah.
Right. So we're
talking about 9 ships globally.
Yeah.
And that's going to be repositioned. All right. We do have another caller on air, Mario Rankin, Michelle Lockwood, our studio guest. Good afternoon and welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Good.
Afternoon.
Thank you for calling.
No problem. Okay, so the government right now is focused on the port, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, so when they're focused on the port, what benefit does that have to us, teenagers?
Well,
That's
I don't know.
a mouthful.
One of the arguments that they were talking about was that there's going to be 900 jobs in the next 4 years, which they struggled to identify exactly where those jobs were. And I think Minister Kirkconnell alluded to, these jobs are going to be there for, the teenagers and the people coming up. But I think somebody made a really good point of knowing what those jobs are, knowing what the requisite qualifications are going to be, and making sure that we are training Caymanians, young people, to be able to take those jobs so that we don't, because it's no good of creating 900 jobs if they then turn into
and how much are we going to make
to 900 work permit holders. So, I mean, it's a struggle to answer that question. I think.
It's a very good question, and I wish someone had posed that to the minister, and then maybe he would have been able to scramble and get a question. But what I would say is that doing this cruise berthing project, if they are allowed to do it, is that I could safely say that it won't have any real to any impact on the younger people of this island, because we're not any large participators in that industry. And one of the things, and I think that we should be really focused on is investing in our people,
Exactly.
get back to the schools, environment, and make sure that we have a sustainable island for all.
Right. Is the caller, are you still there, please?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Certainly want to hear more from you. What are your thoughts? Share with us, please.
I think that no matter how many petitions we do or whatever, the government is still going to go forth with the port.
Well, what I want to say to you, caller, and this is why it's important. I'm so happy you called. I don't want you to be discouraged by past governments. I don't want you to be discouraged by past petitions and past marches that didn't really bear any fruit to any real magnitude that created a difference. I want to confidently tell you this, is that this petition is the first petition in the history of the Cayman Islands that seeks to exercise Section 70 of the Constitution, and that if we get the 5,288 signatures that are required under that Constitution, that strips the government of the ability to ignore the voice of the people. So the power is actually in our hands in this particular instance. So I want you to be confident and know that once we reach this number, then the government has no more ability to ignore us.
Okay. Yes, ma'am?
The government claims that they're doing this for the tourists, but when on the news the other day on Cayman 27, they were interviewing some of the tourists, and they were against it.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
Okay. So from what you've seen, what you're thinking, as you see the future for yourselves and for the country, as you wish, share with us what is your thinking and your thoughts in relation to the port.
I think they should set that back and focus on young Caymanians right now.
I agree.
They should finish building the school. They should have some type of attraction or theme parks here for the children to do, because right now, legally, I should say, there's nothing for the teenagers to do other than go to Kamana Bay and to the beach.
I agree.
And King Sports Center.
Yeah. Could I ask how old you are?
I'm 17.
Okay, so you're a little too young for our petition.
Yeah, and what I want to say to her before she leaves is that it's absolutely essential that she plays a part in this process, because when they, and I'm going to go back to the schools because she's obviously a student and has been a student recently. When the government decided to embark on that capital project to build those schools, there was a lot of talk, and there was a lot of contribution, there was a lot of public consultation, there was a lot of back and forth with the government, and the government took the position, despite of the warnings and the concerns of the public, they took the position to go ahead with that school. Then they realized halfway in that it was a bad idea because of the economic downturn that we were having at that time. But what's important with that, and I want you to feel confident that since then we had a 2009 revision of the 1972 Constitution, which gives us the ability to intervene on a capital project that is a matter of national importance. So where we didn't have the power to stop the government then, which gave you the impression that no matter what we say, they do whatever they want. Where we didn't have the power then to do what we're doing now, now we have the power, and we're going to exercise that power, and we're going to create that level of change so we can change the mindset and have that paradigm shift.
You still there?
Yeah.
Okay. Share with us if you want to continue.
No, that was it.
Okay. Now, with the greatest respect, not just for this issue, but for future issues, when you're eligible, as I say to every eligible person, register to vote, okay? You might be a candidate in the next premier, I don't know, but if you would not be offended, I would encourage you and all others who are eligible, even though you're 17, you can still start the process now, okay?
Okay.
All right. Have a wonderful semester.
You too. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for calling. We have another caller, and we go straight to our phones. Good afternoon. You're on Talk Today.
Yeah, good afternoon, sir. What's your name again?
Only on a dark day, my friend. How are you?
Good, man. I love the program today, man. You got to get some intelligent young people up there talking and stuff. What we need to do is, I hear him talking about this thing down here, talking about this. I don't want to knock nobody's ideas, but sometimes before you start to implement something, there should be some real good examination of the facts of what will happen and what won't happen and so on. And I'm calling now because I was in town the other day when they had one cruise ship or two cruise ships, whatever it was. And I saw the dancing policeman out there. He's like getting tired, from all the directing traffic. I can't imagine what it would be like with one of them big old ships in here in Georgetown with the number of people that will be coming off that ship. I suggested I came back home in 1986. Suggested in 1988. I think it was 88 when Linford was in charge of planning and stuff, yeah. That whenever they have, Georgetown is too small a place. I mean, the town center itself is too small a place to have traffic running up and down in that place. I suggested to them that what they should do down there is to have like what I call boutique hotels and stuff like that. Still have offices. Downstairs would be basically retail and restaurants and stuff like that. And have a people mover throughout the town, a little tram car, sit down on it and drive you around wherever you want to go in town. And things like that. I did a drawing. I don't know where it is now, but I gave it to them. What I'm saying is we have a tendency, and it's all, I say it's within government. If one government gets in, they decide something, or the minister in that particular portfolio decides something, and then as soon as the other one gets in, they scrap it. Okay? That happened to me when I designed a really nice thing for Westway down there, but it's cruise ship plan, but they launch and wrap down in Westway. And everybody, they what's her name, from the ship, people there, she came down and she looked at it and she was all happy about it. Everyone was happy about it. But as soon as the other one got in, bam, and you see, this is what we need to have Mario and the young lady talking. No one government can walk into the next election and then things that other people might have done that might have made some sense, they can't scrap it because they're in charge of that portfolio now. This is what happens all the time. Look at the money we wasted on schools. Look at the money we wasting on these docks. Since 1988, I think it was when they had the first wheel. It's ridiculous. And nobody seems to be accountable for anything. It's just like, kind of go as you go. Nobody cares. We'll get the next one. So what I'm saying is, if they're ever going to get the dock down Georgetown, the thing they should really do is to pedestrianize Georgetown as a whole and have little people movers running around, picking up people if you got to go from A to B. I would cost you 50 cents or you can maybe free, I don't know. But these are the things you need to do and stop fighting among each other, one party against the other one. I mean, it's so ridiculous and I get sick sometimes thinking about it. I now pray to God. I hope God will give us the good, whatever we need to stop this kind of picking on each other. God bless you guys. Have a good afternoon.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Michelle, it's almost 2 o'clock. I know you're getting back to work. So, want to share some thoughts with us?
I mean, I think I'm still a little disappointed in our government from last night because we went in there, and I think the whole reason why they even wanted to have that meeting is because of sort of, I guess, campaign that Mario and I and the rest of CPR has been on for the last 2 months. And now the opposition is starting to gear up and help us as well, too. And unfortunately, we went in there with questions and we came out with more. I still don't see the need for this, and even more so like how Mario and I started on this was about the cruise, and there was this threat, they're gonna leave, but we heard from them definitively last night that
them being the cruise people,
okay. The vice president of Carnival and the vice president of Royal Caribbean, they definitively said that they're just not going to bring the Oasis class ships to us. It's not that they're removing themselves or removing Cayman. And I think Eden said it at one point too, is instead of looking at it like, let's figure out how we can get as many people as we want on the island, let's figure out a way to make Cayman so amazing that they can't afford not to keep us as a destination. That's the way that we need to phrase this question, I truly believe, is that we need to figure out what Cayman is, what we want, what our product needs to be. And I know that they just released a national tourism plan, but it needs to be a focus on let's make us a destination that has to be seen. Yeah. Rather than a destination that let's get as many as possible. We need to be, I think to rephrase Eden, he said a jewel in the Caribbean. That's what we need to be.
And to your point, I just got a WhatsApp from a good friend of mine, and I won't call his name, but exceptionally sharp chap, I must say. And he said that, and I'll just read what he said. He said, we're seeking an infinite customers for an infinite product, and he think that it's a misfit. And he said that if you look at Barcelona, is now suffering from an overcrowding and has lost its novelty. And he said that there is something nostalgic about what we have here, and that it's something that we should preserve, because obviously it's a unique experience, and you can't go to another port and find the Cayman Islands other than the Cayman Islands. And the whole idea that the minister and their team has been perpetuating is that we have to stay competitive in the region. We have to do what we have to do to maintain a certain market share. The vice president of Royal Caribbean said it, and I quote. He said that, right now, if we had the Oasis-sized ships coming in here, you guys would have on their end, not just them, about 450 or 425,000 passengers per year from them. And he said if we didn't bring the Oasis, they would be anywhere between 250 to 300. So, right there it tells you that they have already put in their marketing chart that this is what we're going to have in the Cayman Islands, regardless of anything that they do, right? So it's important that we always try to emphasize the facts and understand what this means to us. And it goes back to my friend that sent the text. We must understand what our product is. We must ensure that our product never varies, because the product itself is what attracts people here. Yeah. Right. And if we're gonna dilute it because we want to make an extra couple of dollars, then we have lost sight of what is sustainable for a tourism product.
Mm-hmm. All right, we have a news break. Ms. Michelle, thank you so much for joining us. Mario, you're welcome to stay, or you can head on, man. It's up to you.
I'm going to stay, because I think that, it's important that we keep hammering radios for, unless Radio Cayman run me out.
Well, they run you out, then
I'll be more than willing to leave.
Yeah. We're going to pause, take a break. We're going to take your calls when you come back. And if you got a comment, a question, or a query, what a wonderful way to hear from Susan. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman. Radio Cayman's newsroom. These are the biggest stories right now.
Road safety will be the key focus on the National Roads Authority NRA upcoming conference. Set to take place over 4 days in early October, NRA's Road Safety Week features a wide array of both local and international speakers. The conference will also feature a number of local speakers from a number of government entities, private businesses, and non-profit organizations. The conference will take place from October 1st through the 4th at the Ritz-Carlton, Grand Cayman. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines. In news elsewhere, Italy's populist government has vowed to end poverty with its first budget plans today. The ambitious spending plan of the government put it in conflict with European powers who want Italy to stick to lower spending and avoid racking up new debt. The country's own economy minister agrees, but is under political pressure to approve spending. Japan's space agency JAXA has released new images from the robot rovers it has deployed to the surface of an asteroid. The photos reveal new details of the surface of the space rock, which is known as Yugu. On September 21st, the rovers were released onto the surface by the mothership Hayabusa 2. Hayabusa 2 reached Yugu in June after a 3.5-year journey. And the American Music Awards will honor the Queen of Soul next month. Dick Clark Productions tells the Associated Press that Gladys Knight, Mary Mary, Donnie McClurkin, CeCe Winans, and musical director Ricky Minor will pay tribute to Aretha Franklin's gospel roots and her iconic album Amazing Grace at the October 9th event. It will air live on ABC from the Microsoft Theater in Los Angeles. Franklin died last month. She won 6 AMAs throughout her career and even hosted the show in 1976 and 1983. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
CUC advises customers that they should be aware of an email masquerading as an official CUC communication entitled Subject New Invoice. Customers are advised that this email was not generated by the company's system. An email address from CUC always ends with @cuc.ky. If customers have any doubts about the validity of an email from CUC, please contact our customer service team at 949-5200 or via email at service@cuc.ky.
Attention Breeze Fusion fans and supporters, registration is now open for the 12th annual Grand Cayman Breeze Fusion 5K Walk Run. We're calling on you to help us in raising funds for the NCVO and for the John Gray High School Musical Department. Registration is only $15 for adults if registered by September 30th. The walk run will take place on Saturday, November 3rd at the Smith's Bacadeer in Grand Cayman. But you must be registered by September 30th to take advantage of the lower fee. Visit CaymanActive.com to register today or stop by Radio Cayman on Elgin Avenue.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. Thank you for joining us in the studio. Mario Rankin continues to keep our company as we want to facilitate your calls and have your input. And I looked at a couple of quick little comments during the break. Mario, there are some who are sharing, as I paraphrase these sentiments, that unfortunately, like most things, let me quote this person's words, this has become an emotive political football. All right? Now, the other two sentiments are that, unfortunately, projects of this nature become embroiled in politics. Now, the other third person, the second of those two, says, how can we move this discussion to, one where we're looking at facts, potentialities, and, what it's going to cost environmentally as well as financially.
Right.
Where does that take us? Yeah.
Well, I would say this, that when we look at the financial gains, obviously the numbers are numbers, they don't lie. If you have, and let's just put aside all of the fundamental issues that comes along with building the port. If you have an additional 800,000 people coming to our shore a year, that's $17 a head tax. Obviously, that creates a higher economic model. That creates a higher financial model. However, if in order to accommodate that additional 100 is on a higher cost spend from a financial situation and from an environment and infrastructure impact, then does it balance out? So does it make sense? So when we look at the process that has taken place, now we have a public procurement law that protects the government and protects the bidders, so that certain information that was asked for last night was unable to be shared and unable to be shared because of the new procurement law that was just put in place this year. Now, the reality is that when we look at the procurement law, the young caller that called in earlier made a very strong statement, and I don't think a lot of people understand how serious her statement was, and it was very simple. How does the port benefit me? And right now, we see the struggle that the operators have right now with the port and the cruise ships, and who has pre-existing contracts from those who don't.
Those pre-bookings and stuff.
Pre-bookings and stuff. And we know for a fact, and there's no myth behind that the cruise lines charge exceptionally more for a cruise as opposed to if they buy the cruise onshore when the cruise passengers come off. And what I know is that there's a large portion of the tour operators and bus drivers and taxi operators who are not part of the pre-existing contractual agreements with the cruises, who have to go out there and stand on the outside of the gate, very similar to Falmouth, and try to filter through the people who are coming through who didn't buy pre-existing tours, and try to get business that way. Now, a question was asked to the panel last night by one of the individuals. I can't remember who it was, and he asked. He said, "What guarantees would the cruise line give the Cayman Islands if we were to do this public-private partnership with them, that they would bring this threshold of people that they say they would bring? What guarantees would they guarantee that people would come here on that and those numbers that make sense to pay back the money in which we have to borrow in order to do this, because we don't have the ability to do it."
Yeah.
Right?
Sorry. Well, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Earlier, you referenced the procurement process.
Right.
Comment, the third of those three comments there also was asking if in this process, is there a final design and potentially what the expected cost would be? Now, I know you referenced the procurement process as well, but if you want to answer that, we do have a caller join us, but you could wait if you wish.
Well, yeah, I don't like to keep people waiting because
Let's go to the call.
I know how it feels.
Susan, let's go to the phone. Say good afternoon. Thank you so much for calling.
Yeah, good afternoon. I agree with you, Mario. It's not a good feeling.
Good afternoon.
Oh, it sucks. Especially when you're all worked up and you want to get it all up. Yeah, I was at that meeting last night too, and I tell you, we didn't want to talk about it. But in regards to the taxes, working out of the outer port, trying to get a customer or a visitor, whatever you want to call it sometimes. I'm being affiliated with the group of ones that coming off the cruise ship. We're not in a position to go overseas and book a business, some of us at least. But anyhow, I've been saying from day one that I've been in the taxi business, we got a holding ground for the taxi drivers. And I asked the government, and I did went to one of the district meetings that they had some months ago, Mr. Caparno, and I'm going to the one in West Bay, and in regards to trying to get us all under one umbrella, because it looks so tacky, so unprofessional. We are like licensed beggars out there on the street. Mm-hmm. We are being run by the police. We are being run by the Port Authority. They got certain lines down. You can't cross that line to go no further in. And then you're talking to some people, and then another one walks up and says, "Oh, I can do it for $10 cheaper than what they're going to offer to you for." That's the behavior there. And you have no one in the public transport or the tourism board or Port Authority to come out here and penalize you and tell you that it can't work like that, interfering when someone's trying to make a sale from the visitors of the cruise ship. So what I'm trying to say is that if we're going to get a port, is this going to continue to? Are we all going to come into the pen and come up professional and look like real ambassadors and good taxi drivers and for the island? That's what I would like to know too, because right now it's ugly. They have a holding ground, and even went up there and redone some of the ground of that, and took away some of the parks and it turned into a garden. Who can eat the garden? So at the airport, nowhere to park, and they're trying to know what's in the garden. I'm not kidding wrong with having gardens, but when you're not going to park in space, you need to consider where your staff going to park, where the taxi drivers going to park, and where the pickup people going to park when they come to the airport. Because apparently, nobody wants to go and pay government $2 in the ticket section, but it would drive around 100 times and burn up $5 gas. Now I don't see the logic in that at all. No, but it's going to be a real doom day here in the Cayman at that port. We built that port downtown Georgetown. I know we need a port, but not Georgetown, please. Not Georgetown.
All right. Okay, thanks very much. Mom?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And well, go ahead, Mario.
No,
I was going to say that this, as a person was speaking, two others called in and say, we need to look at a port, but is the location. The second person, is the Georgetown the best location? I've heard that question asked a number of times.
Right. Yeah. And we keep going to location and all these things, and we still forgetting about the infrastructure. We're still forgetting about the capacity, the carrying capacity. Okay. How are we going to deal with? Because even if you take them to spots, they're still going to be shuttled all the way to Westby Road and to the Turtle Farm and we want them in all our areas. But if the experience get to a point where it's overcrowded and it's not a good experience, why are we doing it? We have to identify what our capacity is. Based on our infrastructure, on all of our tours and all of our areas that we can expand. We need to realize what that capacity is. We need to ensure that we provide a quality experience in that capacity. Piling numbers on shores only benefits one area of our financial model, which is the government head tax. Okay, because then that 800,000 times 17 additionally. And then, obviously, the other tour operators who enjoy the luxuries of pre-existing contracts with the cruise line. Okay? Mr. Joseph Wood made reference to Ms. Jan's point. And because there's been an ongoing issue about the fairness of who's inside the port, who's on the outside, who can get what. But Mr. Joseph Wood didn't provide any clarity. All he basically said was that those who are fighting on the outside of the port, that there'll be a designated area on the inside where you can fight. Meaning that if you don't have a pre-existing contract with the cruise line, there's going to be a place inside where you'll be able to still do the same thing you're doing now, but just on a designated area. So that doesn't help the situation. Okay, so. If we're going to do this port, we have to look at the project from its entirety. And let's speak hypothetically. Because let's say we did get the port, right? Let's say we built the berth and then we had these Oasis-sized ships coming in here and we had all these extra passengers. I would ask the two reps from the cruise lines, would they be willing to allow the tours and the cost of the tours to be one, properly distributed among all licensed tour operators and taxis and tour drivers, and two, would they agree that they set the price point as opposed to the cruise ship dictating what they charge, giving the tour operator who takes them on the tour what they feel like giving them, and then and then marginalize those people who have the tours at the realistic price. Because I can assure you that I when I worked immigration, I used to talk to one of the pursers, and she told me straight that they used to discourage passengers from buying tours on shore because the companies in which they do pre-booking with has proper boats and proper liability insurance and proper tour guides, and then nothing could be further away from the truth. I'm not saying that they didn't have those things, but those operators on the outside of the port also have those things because they can't get a trade and business license without those things. They have to have proper liability insurance. They have to have the same things that is required by those who have the tours pre-booked. And that's the reality. Until somebody can show me some fairness across the board that it benefits all these people, and it goes back to our young caller. How does it benefit her? If they can't evenly distribute the benefits of tours amongst all of our tour operators, How in the world are we going to consider or even believe that it's going to get to our young people who is concerned and will have to deal with this environment once we decide that we're going to sell it off for an extra couple of dollars?
Interestingly, you share that, for the last year, so the last academic year, so
right,
from September to the summer, and then it continuing again. I've been engaged with different students, and what I found, that for some reason this society believes that our students, whether they're high school students or whether they are, college students, that they're not informed nor involved. Now, I've said to them, I know how it sounds to them, that you spend so much time on your devices that sometimes I wonder if you're paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
But that's old school, because I've gotten used to having multiple phones and multiple media and then trying to look at you. I prefer to look at you while you're talking and pay attention, because what do we say? Look at me, I'm talking to you, boy. That's how we were raised. But these guys now, they're doing 1,000 things and they're engaged. So in the last year, these students have been very, very engaged in relation to the politics, the economics, the environment, global landscape, the whole works. And many of them are sharing that even though they're feeling disconnected, disrespected, disenfranchised, and as you shared to the young lady, don't lose hope, but there's a sense of despair. I think, unfortunately, as older people, as media, as whatever, we dismiss them because we don't think, well, one, they can't vote, so therefore they don't have any value. But we're asking them to be the future taxpayers, right?
Correct. And another thing that she's highlighted inadvertently is that how good the propaganda machine is. Because here's a 17-year-old girl who's already seemingly lost hope in the political system. Well, no matter what we do, they're going to still do what they want. Right? So that's a transition from one generation to the next. And it's unfortunate that we have a young Caymanian who hasn't even set out on the journey of her life yet to participate in this environment, who's already of the mindset that it doesn't matter because all that she has seen in her short life indicates that it don't matter what we think or what we do. And that's unfortunate, Sterling. That is really unfortunate, because that's not the message that we want to send to our future generations. Because we have to set the bar so that they could be inspired to do the same. Just like how our men went to sea, pumped money in our economy, every one of us inspired to that greatness. And somehow we took the Y in the road and went the wrong direction. The procurement process of this particular project is essential to what the outcome is, because now that certain thing has come to light, that meeting brought a few things to light, which created more confusion. Number one, we don't know who the 3 top bidders are, right? Number two, we'll never know until the procurement process is over, which means there's no reversing. That means it's too late. This petition is the only hope that the Caymanian people have left, Sterling, because in absence of this petition, it'll just be a matter of time for the government to award the preferred bidder out of the 3 and move forward with this project, whether or not the concerns of the public is met. And that's what's important and scary.
I almost inclined to read something someone shared, but I was thinking it would be for another time. But let me share it in sort of just the gist of it. His analogy was similar to the dump, where there was a bidding process, then similar there's a consortium. His question was, well, how do we know at the end of the day there might be some sort of similar thing with the port? One may emerge, it may be a collection, it may be some sort of, I don't want to use the words that he used, but they weren't complementary.
Right.
And just so that I don't misrepresent his comments, he's saying, we talk about openness and accountability and transparency, but how can I, his words, know what is transpiring unless you share it with me? He has said, I'm very much in favor of progress, development, the port, and so on, but if I'm expected to pay for something, at least show me what is it that I'm buying.
Correct. And one of the top paragraphs in one of the big full-page ads that the ministry put out was that we intend to have transparency on its highest level. Yet, on the most important piece of this document and this issue is being kept secret because you decided to put a procurement law in place this year. Now, it wasn't a matter of procurement laws in the past. It wasn't a matter of importance of keeping this information secret in the past. But all of a sudden, it's become a matter of importance to keep the integrity of who the people are. Now, if they have such a squeaky clean and they're the three top bidders and they don't have any issues to fulfill the obligations of this contract, then what is your reason and what ground are you standing on to keep it away from the public who has to deal with it for the rest of our lives? So we as people have to understand the magnitude of what was said last night. It was said in clear English. Go and watch the video. That after the procurement process is done and the government has selected the preferred bidder, that is no more need for public consultation. It's already a done deal. We will move forward. The public concerns then fall on deaf ears. So the only way that we can get this information and have our concerns addressed is through a petition, so that we can have a referendum. And the referendum may go in their favor, who knows? And if they had so much confidence in this particular project, they would have said, okay, guys, let's do the referendum so we can just prove that this is the best thing for our island.
I'm smiling with you because I looked at what someone just sent me. You know, our listeners are engaged. Sometimes, sadly, they don't make time to publicly share. But what this person sent me encapsulates what you shared. And I thought, if only I could share this one. So somewhere people... You know what? Let me pause and take a break so I can spin this for you. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
It's big, it's hot, and it's sizzling.
Super Stitch is making way for Christmas stock and is having a mad end of summer fabric clearance at Super Stitch Fabrics on September 27, 28, and 29th.
Fabric for dresses, fabric for skirts, fabric for blouses. Super Stitch even has fabric to cover your chairs and your what's it not.
No, me what's it not.
It's the biggest fabric clearance of the year, so don't miss it. 25% off most fabric.
50% off suiting fabric. Great discount on household items.
Super Stitch, your one-stop household store at 39 Pasador Place, Smith Road. Still offering the best prices in town. Call 949-2833 or go to superstitch.com.ky.
Save the dates, Cayman, for HomeFest 2018, Cayman's Home Expo. Join A.L. Thompson's and more than 60 exciting vendors Friday and Saturday, September 28th and 29th. Why does HomeFest get bigger each year? Because you ask for it. You want new products, more demos, and more interaction, so we bring them to you. If you want cutting edge and once-a-year savings, join us for Cayman's Home Expo. It's HomeFest at A.L. Thompson's.
Rotary Central Music Extravaganza is back. Be a winner this November with your Rotary Central Music Extravaganza ticket purchase of only $25. Win that grand prize of $40,000 CI dollars. Second prize $4,000, 6 $1,000 prizes, and much, much more. Yes, the 23rd Annual Music Extravaganza, Saturday, November 24th, Royal Palms, West Bay Road from 7 p.m. Featuring music by Dr. Bob's Experiment, Fire Squad, and Altered Minds. Only 8,000 golden tickets now on sale through Rotary Central members and Rotary ticket sellers. Rotary Central Music Extravaganza proceeds fund over 50 community inspiration projects. You can be a winner. Your ticket, your chance, your community. Rotary Central Music Extravaganza is back.
The Department of Children and Family Services would like to invite the community to a series of inspiring events recognizing the contributions of our senior citizens throughout October, the Older Persons Month. This year's theme is Respecting the Wisdom and Value of Older Persons. Key events include a church service on Sunday, 30th of September, educational seminars, a beach walk, a variety show, gala, movie trip, and more across all 3 islands. For a full listing of events, get your copy of the Older Persons Month calendar at public buildings, DCFS at gov.ky, or contact DCFS at 949-0290.
Don't forget to tune in every Monday through Friday for the 7 a.m. news, brought to you by Cayman National Bank, proudly serving the Cayman Islands since 1974. Visit Cayman National Bank today for all of your financial needs. CUC advises customers in the Pedro Castle Road area in Savannah that they will experience interruptions to their electrical service on Saturday, September 29th between 8:30 a.m. and 6 p.m. Areas affected include all customers on Pedro Castle Road from the junction with Shamrock Road, including Homestead Crescent from the United Church east to Domino's, Astral Way, Sandy Ground Drive from the junction with Pedro Castle Road to house number 134, West Lane, Adams Lane, Charity Lane, Pedro Villas Lane, and all side roads. Houses 1742, 1803, 1828, and the Church of God Full Gospel Hall on Shamrock Road will also be affected. Motorists are asked to drive with caution when utilizing Pedro Castle Road, as CUC will have a number of vehicles and personnel in this area. CUC apologizes for this interruption, which is necessary to upgrade lines and poles in the area. For more information on the outage and streets affected, please contact CUC's customer service team at 949-5200 or email service@cuc.ky.
Talk today. But I do have some questions.
Talk today. Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. Thank you for joining us. And certainly I appreciate the opportunity and the effort. And certainly, the interest that we have. Mario Rankin, thank you. And even though Miss Michelle had to return to her other sort of obligations. And for the callers, seeing the hour and the time, but hopefully this discussion continues. We get informed and involved, be as professional, objective, impartial, but as engaged. So,
yeah, I think this is a very serious issue. Mm-hmm. And I think that we have proven now, based on all of the activity over the last couple of months about this particular project, I think we have undoubtedly proven that this is a matter of national importance. Okay. And I think that it's worth talking about. It's worth having the participation of our society who are registered to vote to come out and voice their opinions and have their voice heard through this petition and referendum.
So for the petition, is it still being in circulation? People can
That's
still
right.
sign?
That's right. We are actively getting signatures on a regular basis. We got signatures at that meeting last night.
Okay.
So the reality is that there are far more people who don't have the answers and the clarity that they want in order to move ahead and say this is what we want or this is what we don't want. So it's important that the government try to find a way to get the people properly informed, bring them in, get them to understand what it is that they see, because obviously they keep saying, well, it's my, because Mr. Cocornell said it's my obligation to enhance the economic system and models for tourism and whatever. And it is. He's absolutely right. That's his job as Minister of Tourism, is to find ways to increase our financial position in our tourism. Tourism and financial industry is our two pillars. So we're not telling the minister that he shouldn't do his job and that he shouldn't do his job, the best way he can. We just telling the minister that he shouldn't destroy our product while doing his job.
Well, it's interesting that it's sufficient and important issue that civil servants, with a limited exception of a few, are able to, and authorized to sign this petition.
Right.
But as you shared, signing the petition doesn't mean that you for or against. It just means that you want a national vote, as a voter, to have a say in this thing. All right. Any final thoughts, Mario?
Yeah, my final thoughts are, and I'm going to speak to the civil servants, because we had a presentation up at the UCCI for the civil servants who are in class up there. And I want to give a big thanks to Miss Susan Young, who allowed us to come and speak to her class and give them an opportunity to see the Rebirth film, to understand the importance from the other side. And I just want to say to those civil servants who are not in senior policy decision positions that they are allowed to sign this petition. Yes, you cannot go out and campaign and advocate and tell people to sign it, but you can individually sign it. And it will have no impact on your ability to perform your duties, and it shouldn't have any impact under the protocol and constitution of what your position is in government. You're not at any compromise or any jeopardy of losing your job. The reality is that for far too long, our civil servants has been muzzled and has been put on a side burner when it comes to issues that also affect them. And last but not least, I want to thank Radio Cayman and all its counterparts that allow people to come on here and have conversations. You had the other side in here the other day, and it was a fantastic conversation. And I encourage more of that. And I encourage that you get a lot of our older seamen who are knowledgeable about our coastal lines and our waters and our tides. I encourage that to get them in here. And that'll be a good conversation. Right. And last but not least, I just want to say this at the ending that last night when the question was posed to the minister about China Harbor, the most telling thing is that he never commented whether they were or were not. Now, if the concerns were that China Harbor was an issue because of all of the track record that they have, and if they were not a top 3 bidder, then the ministry would have had nothing to lose by simply saying, well, I can tell you confidently that they are not part of the last 3, which means that don't compromise who the last 3 is. That's just my opinion. But again, thank you, Radio Cayman, and I appreciate the opportunity. And I know Michelle is absolutely grateful, and all of the team that we have working behind the scenes. I want to say thank you to all the volunteers and all the people who pushing this petition, and all Cayman who are registered to vote. Please come out and sign the petition. It's not a vote against the port. It's an opportunity to have a vote on the port. You guys have a nice day.
Thank you very much, and thanks to Susan. Boy, all the other guys will tell you it's good when they're in the seat, but even better when Susan's there, right? So, hey, tomorrow, join me start in the morning for the record. Come back for our programming. We have the ombudsman slated for part of our discussion tomorrow between 1 and 2. We invite you to have a safe, very, very enjoyable afternoon. Please continue to participate in our civil society. Do so responsibly, respectfully, but do so from an informed perspective. Until tomorrow, be blessed.
Shaken yet standing firm. This is Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.